2, 1, and we are live, and welcome to the brand new Standout CEO Show. And if you have been following this series for any length of time, you will notice a slightly new look and a slightly new feel and a shift in focus. In this new season, I have been doing this show for an entire year. In fact, this is going to be episode number 53, which means that I have done 52 weekly interviews for an entire year. And I've met some really fascinating people and held some really great conversations. And now it's time to shake things up and make a new shift. So we are now going to be talking about, in the future, how can you build a standout business? And how can you, as an entrepreneur, radically stand out and actually earn the attention of the people who you are here to serve? So today, I have a fantastic guest to sort of launch this new series. Her name is Christina Lawrence, and she is the bio writer. And her unique way of standing out is focusing on helping you create this incredibly outstanding and incredibly sort of impressive and impactful biography for yourself. And, the truth is, when we go out in the world, we only get this one chance to make that first impression. And as people find us, when they find us online, when they find us on LinkedIn, when they come to your website, there's always that about page. There's that thing in your profile, which is your way of communicating who you are and what you do and what you stand for and what you believe in. And if you blow it off, if you don't do a very good job, you've missed this chance. And I just find this is something that I see so many people not paying enough attention to. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Stay tuned. Don't touch that dial, and let's start the show. All right, Christina, welcome to the show.
Brad, thank you so much for having me. And I want to preface by saying congratulations on the new brand for your show. I am thrilled to be your first guest for this brand new vision that you've created for yourself and your content. So thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, it's the opportunity. I mean, let's just see if we can do something outstanding.
Absolutely. I am here for it.
So as a way to start off our conversation, let's talk about starting your focus. I mean, you are generically a copywriter, and you've come to the world of copywriting pretty much unlike, I would imagine, just about every other person who's doing copywriting, because of the fact that you have this laser focus in that you offer this one service, which is focusing on helping people write their bio, which is something that absolutely every single person on the planet who wants to show up as anything needs to do. So talk a little bit about the background and the story of how you came to this particular focus, which is basically your way of standing out.
Of course. Yes. So I have a broadcasting background. I come from a radio broadcasting background. I used to actually be a reporter and a news anchor. And what I found was that I really enjoyed helping others share their stories, whether it was through audio, whether it was through, a written news story, either or. I just loved helping people get to the essence of who they are and what they were trying to say. So long story short, life took me in a different direction. I moved away and I started writing freelance articles for publications. And what I found was I really enjoyed the story aspect of it. I enjoyed having more words to play with. As we know, radio, we're trained to tell a story in 30 seconds or less. So I always kind of wondered how much more of the story I could be sharing. So once I started writing articles, I discovered there was a lot more words to play with and a lot more of a person's essence that I could shine a light on. And I had a conversation with a friend actually, because I had branded myself a content strategist. And there was a lot of confusion. People didn't really understand what it was I did. And to be honest, I didn't really understand either. I was kind of murky on what I wanted to do. So I was sitting with a friend. We were having a Zoom conversation, much like this, except we're not on Zoom. But she said, I know what you do. She said, you write bios. And not to be cliche, but it was like a gong went off. It was like, oh, that's it. That's it. I'm the bio writer. And I started out as the bio writer for business owners. But as I evolved and got to know more and more people, people started asking, well, excuse me, business owners that you write for? And I said, absolutely not. If you're heart centered and you're trying to make the planet a better place to be, I'm here for you. I'm here to support you in your bio journey. So I've since shortened now to the bio writer, and it has been a game changer in my life and business, becoming this laser focused in my niche or zone of genius, as I like to call it.
Yeah, that's such a great lesson. I mean, I think this is one of the biggest challenges that so many people have is in fact finding that actually rather narrow lane that allows you to focus and in fact allows you to be something special, like to be something that is hard to find. You know, that's on the one hand really needed, like everybody needs this, but your version of it is actually quite rare. So yeah, congratulations. I love seeing people who are doing something that's like, oh my gosh, you have just the right combination. I mean, really, literally, there has to be, millions of people who need help with what you're helping them with. So it's great. And so, all right, so we're talking about shining a light, like shining a light on ourselves. And I know that a lot of people, I mean, I think the majority of folks, and this is not the super, ego-driven, gregarious extroverts out there, but the normal folk are thinking about, well, I want to talk about myself in some way, but I don't want to be bragging about myself. And they're feeling somewhat shy and or humble. I mean, I run across this all the time in the work that I do with people getting on camera. And so how do you approach that kind of natural dynamic with people who are feeling like they don't necessarily want to blow their own horn? Where do you start with them?
Of course. I'm so glad you asked this question because this does come up a lot in the work that I do. We're taught from an early age to kind of be seen, not heard, and we're taught to downplay our brilliance and not take up too much space in the room. And of course, there's space for humility in your bio, but to deny people the privilege of getting to know you because you're lacking self-confidence is really doing yourself a disservice. So I approach people gently with the understanding that we're not trying to make you into something you're not. I'm not in the business of making you into something you're not and something you're not proud to share with someone else. At the end of the day, I want you to feel completely heard and understood after our work together. And oftentimes people are too close to what they're doing, myself included. Writing your bio is one of the most challenging tasks you will ever face because you're so close to it, you can't see the forest for the trees. And sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to come in and show you, hey, this is what I see you doing, and this is the connection I see between what you're doing and your mission. So I'm able to help people better connect the dots when it comes to their mission and when it comes to the truth of who they really are. And I approach every bio with empathy and with intuition. These are two very important elements that I tap into with every bio that I create. Because again, I do not want to make somebody into something they're not. However, it does the person no good if we're playing it safe and if we're not truly sharing the brilliance of who they are and the magic that they bring to the world.
Yeah, and have you found that you developed a formula or a kind of template for writing a bio? I mean, I know that if we were to compare this to, say, an elevator pitch, I've seen many elevator pitch formulas, and on and on, like just these things that, and I'm not a huge fan of the elevator pitch, by the way. I don't think when you're in an elevator, it's a good time to try to make anything happen necessarily, but, and yet the elevator pitch seems to be here as one of the things that people do. But in your case, like, how do you get people, like to the place of, okay, here are the pieces that you need in the way that you're describing yourself?
For sure. So I'm glad you brought this up because every bio is different, and it's important that we capture your unique brilliance in a way that speaks to you and is authentic to who you are. That being said, there are some commonalities that I find with the bios that I write. And typically when I begin, I kind of work my way backwards sometimes, which is really fun and a bit of a break for my type A brain. So at the end, what I'd like to do is I like to include something interesting about the person that is typically not related to work. I feel like this is a great icebreaker, and this is a chance for people to initiate a conversation with you about something that is not business related. And that helps thaw things a little bit, makes it feel a little less salesy. So in my particular bio, I have that I like to meditate, that I like to savor a home cooked meal or dessert, because who doesn't love dessert, right? And I also love to live, I love learning about living consciously. So this opens the door for people to have a conversation with me about something that is not bio related, while still working our way towards having that conversation about bios. At the end of the day, we want your bio to make you approachable, because if you're displaying your credentials and you're here, but you're not connecting with your client who is here, you're going to miss an opportunity to not only connect with them, but potentially build a relationship and do business with them. So some other key pieces to bios that I've found, I typically go by a bit of a guideline, who you are. So that includes your name, your title, your logo, your brand colors, your headshot, things like that, what you do, how you help. So that's how you help people, the importance and significance of what you do, and then why it matters, your purpose, your magic, and the particular gifts that you bring to the world.
Yeah, and I really like the part where you're sharing just little bits of yourself that are kind of like conversation starters, because that's really how we meet people, whatever you're doing in the world. I mean, I remember I was at a conference not too long ago, and I was wearing these, they're not really tennis shoes, these shoes that look like a cross between sneakers and mountaineer, like rock climbing shoes. And they're made by a Swedish company called Scarpa. And they're kind of, I found them when I was traveling in Europe. I don't think you can actually get them over here unless you can buy them online. And so I was at this conference and I was standing there in my Scarpas. And this guy walked up and he goes, "Oh, Scarpas." And he had a pair on too. And it's like, "Oh, you have those? I have those. I love those shoes." So, and the interesting thing that turned out was that we became friends. And like this happened a while ago and we're still in touch and we've done a number of collaborative things together. But this was the conversation started. Like, this is the point of commonality that happened between us. And I love the idea of dropping those kinds of things into your bio so that people have something to kind of latch onto and say, "Oh, you like this, I like that." And people can sort of come in through that particular gateway to meet you and feel like there's some connection that you have. So the other thing that I'm wondering is, you opened when you were describing yourself as somebody who likes story and storytelling. So how do you incorporate storytelling in people's bios?
Oh, this is a juicy question. Thank you for asking. Okay, so how do I incorporate story into bios? A big part of my writing involves having effective transitions and being able to connect the dots between things that seemingly don't have a connection. So in my case, I had to do a little bit of deep work and think about how my broadcasting career brought me to this particular point in my writing career, being able to help people showcase their stories. And in other people's cases, what I do is I ask them quite extensive questions about their past, about their present, and even about their future so I can get a better idea of who they are and what they're doing and where they're headed in business. And I can connect the dots that much faster. I say to people, I try to get as accurate a picture I can as possible of you. And to do that, I need to ask you questions about your values, questions about, your early career, what led you to this point, and where you want to be heading forward. What are your goals? What would you like to do with this bio? What would you like to accomplish? Who would you like to connect with? When you share this bio with people. So I ask a pretty extensive list of questions, and I actually liken it to a marble sculpture. I say this to my clients all the time. I'm not a sculptor, but I do have artistic tendencies, and my friend is a sculptor, and he'll get a kick out of this. But I say the marble is the interview. The block of marble is what I call the bio building session, and from there, I can sculpt the bio into your likeness little by editing, by including interesting transitions, and especially with a longer bio that I create for people called the CEO profile. That gives me around 1,000 words to work with, and I can really take a deep dive into your past, your present, and your future, and connect those dots and help you and others see how your experience has led to this moment in time and is continuing to lead you into the trajectory where you want to go.
Yeah. And okay, so what are all the different ways that you see people using these bios? I mean, I know like in the setting that we're in, when you are getting on a podcast as a guest, the person who is the host usually will say, send me your bio. And it's just this thing that, everyone who's doing any kind of speaking at all, you need this to be part of your media kit. You need to have a good biography. In fact, you may want 2 or 3 versions of your biography, depending on what kind of thing you're doing, whether it's a TEDx talk or you're doing what you're talking about. You're actually getting on, say, a television, date of some kind, like in some major outlet that's going to be nationally televised. They want a certain kind of bio from you, all of these kinds of things. So what are the range of ways that you see people using this tool?
I often tell people you're only limited by your imagination, how you would like to share this with people. But one of the most common places people use their bio and showcase their bio is actually on their about page, on their website. This is where people go deliberately to learn more about you and your story. They'll click on your site and they'll read a little about your products and your services on your homepage. But people are buying with their conscience, with their heart now, and they want to know that you share the same values they do. So I highly recommend people display their bio proudly on their about page. Another place that they can showcase their bio is, of course, social media, places like Facebook, LinkedIn. Anywhere that you connect with potential clients, this is where your bio needs to be as well. You mentioned podcasts. This is another one. Being a podcast guest is a great way to showcase your expertise and also to share the brilliance of who you are with an entirely different audience that you may not have had access to, much like we're doing today. Another place people can share their bios, video shows, and sorry, my mind just went a little blank there. Oh, yes, authors. Yes, if you plan on writing a book is a great way to showcase your expertise and your knowledge. And of course, you're going to need a bio on the back of your book. And on the personal side, if you're looking to get a new job, I've had a couple clients who have approached me saying, hey, I'm job hunting and I would like something in addition to my resume that I can include in my package that'll set me apart from the so-called competition. I don't like to use that term competition because I believe there's space for all of us here on the planet. However, if there are 10 people applying for a job, you want to present the best version of yourself. And a bio is a brilliant way that you can do that. And I've actually also written a bio, believe it or not, for a dating site. And we've had this discussion, you and I privately. You said, like if you want to join a dating site, you need a bio. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Basically, anywhere you want to socialize with other people and share who you are, is a great place to showcase your bio. Some clients of mine, they include them in their project proposals just to include that personal touch. Because again, it's a way to stand out above the other applicants, and it's a way to, again, share the magic and brilliance of who you truly are.
Yeah, actually, as you were talking, I had my mind was sort of turning on, oh man, there's some really cool verticals here. Like, yeah, a dating site. Like, you could have a whole separate side thing going where this is what you do is you write killer, great, amazing bios for people who are on dating sites. But I could also see,
Right?
like, imagine writing bios for the hosts of Airbnbs. Those folks all need to stand out because there's in any location, there's a lot of places, a lot of choice in terms of which Airbnb are you going to go to. And if you were somebody who was writing some really creative, playful host bio for, like not only will you get to be in this amazing place, but there's me kind of thing. Like I could just see like, oh yeah, like that's another market that you could go after and on and on. Like I can see some really interesting little like verticals like that someone in your position who could just sort of glom onto and say, okay, I'm going to go after these group of people, and word would spread. And it's so great. You could have, I don't know. Anyway, I love, I love thinking about stuff like this. It's so cool. So, all right. One thing that I want to explore a little bit, because you mentioned it, and that you have this background in being a broadcaster and being an anchor, being a news reporter. And I have seen you on LinkedIn doing this weekly live, LinkedIn Live, which is your Bio Tip Tuesdays. And you've been doing it pretty regularly for some time now. And you're just really consistent and you're always showing up. And so talk about that a little bit. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I think, again, like on the theme of standing out, I believe that for certain things, like in this case, you are showing up and you're serving your audience in this very consistent way. And you're a writer, but you're showing up on video and communicating, the things that you want to share. And you've really just like, who thought there were so many things to talk about when it comes to writing a bio, but you've been really exploring all the territory, and I'm sure there's more to explore. But tell a little bit about sort of how that's going. How did it start? What you've learned along the way, and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So yes, thank you for watching and being a part of BioTip Tuesday and mentioning it. And I also, before I begin, I'd like to congratulate you for being consistent. You mentioned at the beginning that you've been doing, like, this is the 53rd show, so you've done 52 shows. Consistency is what helps you grow your brand and your business, and it helps keep you top of mind and visible. So I would like to just applaud and congratulate you for that, because sometimes it's not easy to be so consistent. Maybe you have a rough week and you're not sure your message is landing, or LinkedIn is kind of a land of lurkers, right? I'm just starting to get some traction with my LinkedIn, inviting people to like and comment on my videos. And consistency has been a game changer for me in my business. It was something that I was resisting for a really long time. I would kind of show up and not really know what to say sometimes, but having a strategy and having consistency has been so huge. And it's interesting, like you said, that I'm a writer, but yet I shine brightest on video. I do very well on video. I love going on video. Sometimes it's difficult if I'm having a difficult day, but having a strategy in place, knowing exactly what it is I'm going to be talking about and what call to action I'm going to have at the end of the video is very helpful, not only to me, but to my audience. when we're sharing and creating content for people, we want to be as clear and concise as we can while still providing value. And I aim to do that in my videos by providing a little, I'll call it like a little snack almost, right? Something to get your brain going about your bio, something to get you thinking about your bio in a deep, meaningful way, and also in a way that entices people to work with me. Because let's face it, not everybody wants to sit down and write their own bio. Not a lot of people have time or energy to do it. And why not hire a professional who is trained to look for the best in you and to bring that forth into beautiful light? So it's been really interesting, just getting consistent with the videos. Some of the beginning ones have been a little cringeworthy, but this is how we grow as content creators, and this is how we grow as entrepreneurs, is trying new things and stepping outside of our comfort zone. And a big part of what I've done is try to abandon that crippling perfectionism that kind of trails me. You know, it's not about perfectionism, it's just about improving each time. And if we approach it from that mindset, and I've been approaching it from that mindset, I've been a lot more forgiving to myself when perhaps I slip up on video or I go on Facebook Live and sometimes things don't go as planned, and it's okay to pivot. It's okay to just laugh it off. And I think that speaks to my broadcasting experience too. I had a mentor in broadcasting. He's one of the best news people in the business. And he once told me that the audience doesn't care if you mess up. The audience doesn't care if you're having a rough day. The audience doesn't care. All they want is their content. They want their information. And that may sound harsh, but at the end of the day, you're there to produce and create good content for people. And when you stick to that mission and stick to that intrinsic grain of truth, it makes it a lot easier for self-forgiveness when you perhaps slip up, so to speak, or maybe you forget what you're talking about and you have to regroup, or, you know, what have you. Technology can fail, all the things, you know. But yeah, definitely consistency has been huge in helping me grow my confidence and my brand.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm working with people and helping them do their lives, the thing that I say many times is just that when you're live, the expectation is just entirely different than when you're, say, doing a pre-recorded video for a channel like YouTube. Live video is meant to be in the moment. It's meant to be spontaneous. You really can't be perfect when you're live because it's live, you know, and whatever happens is going to happen. And that's part of almost the endearing quality of this medium. And as you said, no one actually even wants you to be perfect when you're doing a live stream. What they want is a real person, and they just want to get whatever it is that you're offering. It's like, okay, we're here to talk about this thing. Today we're talking about standing out. And I'll just share that if you are doing something, like in this case, Christina, you're a copywriter. And most copywriters, they really like to write. And when they go on social media, what they do is they write. And I would bet that the percentage of copywriters who actually are brave enough to do a video, and even beyond that, to do a video series, like a weekly regular video series, is tiny. Like, it's a really small number of people. So if you want it, like, outstanding is what you're doing. Like, you are one of the few people, in the case of LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, who is willing to do a video series on anything to do with copywriting, let alone the topic that you talk about in terms of writing a good biography. So, I mean, this is too simple in some ways. Like, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes being willing to show up, it takes the sort of courage to get over yourself and let the fact that it's not a good day and your hair looks crummy and you know, you didn't sleep very well last night and you'd rather, you know, just go sit in the corner and then, you know, turn your camera on anyway and say, okay, well, here I go. Like, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to be all right.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
All right. So we're getting close to the end and of our time, that we just said all the time we have for today. If there's just kind of one thing that is still out there that we haven't covered that you would suggest to people when it comes to really creating something outstanding in the way that they talk about themselves in their bio or the way they present themselves, what would that be?
Sure, absolutely. The one that comes to mind right away is maybe sit and brainstorm and think about your significance. Now, when I say your significance, we can break this down a little bit further here. So, one of the tips that I offer is when you're sitting down, brainstorm some words that you would use to describe yourself and your services. And some people get stuck on this step because perhaps they haven't thought about it or they haven't had a chance to really slow down and think about the impact that they want to have on the world and on their clients. And if that is the case, I do have a backup suggestion. So what I do suggest is approaching people in your network, both personally and professionally. These people know you in different capacities, and ask them, what words would you use to describe me or my services? And write them down, jot them down. And if you find any words that are common or the same, those are gold nuggets and diamonds that you want to include in your bio, because this is the way two different networks of people are seeing and experiencing you. So of course, we want to include that in your bio because it is what I call the truth of who you are. That's one hot tip I can offer. Something you could do even tonight if you wanted to approach your spouse or a friend, or the next day, tomorrow, approach someone in your network, in your business network. Maybe if you have a team, ask someone on your team. If you have a business partner, ask that business partner. It's all about becoming aware of yourself and becoming aware of the impact you want to make on the world. And that is a quick way that you can kind of get to the heart of who you are and what you're doing.
Nice. Well, this has been a really great conversation. If people are inspired and they're saying, okay, I need to get a hold of this Christina person and have her help me with my bio, what's the best way for them to do that?
Of course. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me Christina Lawrence. There's a black and white picture of me. And also you can reach me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. It's at Christina, the bio writer. You can reach me there. And also you can find me on Instagram as well. I'm not super active on there, but I have shared some opportunities and experiences there. You can find me at the bio writer on Instagram as well. Or if you'd prefer to reach out to me via email, that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. You can write me a message. You can find me at Christina@thebiowriter.com.
All right. Well, I'll make sure that at least the link to your LinkedIn page is in the show notes down below. And thank you so much for coming on today. This has been fantastic.
Thank you for having me. This was such a delightful conversation, and I'm thrilled you asked me, and I'm thrilled to be a part of your new Standout CEO show. So congratulations again to you, Mr. Brad, for all the hard work you're doing.
All right. Okay. So for anyone who is still listening here at the very end of the show, I just want to remind you that the entire archive of this program, going back some 52 episodes, is located now at standoutceoshow.com. And you can go there and watch videos. You can listen to the archive. You can binge all the episodes to your heart's content. And please, if you got value out of today's episode, think about someone who needs a good bio. Think about somebody who really needs to stand out, and share this episode with them. And of course, subscribe. And remember that the best way to join us is to join us live every Tuesday, every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And until the next time, I will see you